Hey guys, I'm Nathan from Harrison Audio, and this is a brand new live stream that we're doing weekly, right after our Wednesday Mexican lunch that we have a tradition of going out to. And so I'm full of burritos and tacos and whatever else you eat on a Mexican Wednesday. And we're going to have some fun talking about Mixbus 11 and more specifically the Focus channel. But don't let that deter you from answering or asking any questions that you may have about Mixbus, about just audio in general, and we can have a fun discussion about just all things music and recording and what we do here at Harrison. So welcome all. I'm already seeing quite a few people in here. We got Gabriel from Poland, Stinner from Norway. We got Robin from Berlin. Craig from Ohio. Rich is saying there's a flaming kick drum. And yes, I can show your comments on the screen. So if I want to emphasize a certain comment here. Jinsar from Norway. So that's good. We got Randy from Austin, Texas. Yeehaw. And Mika Koo. What's up, guys? We also have Phil Adler in the house. All the way from Massachusetts. Carson Farley from the West Coast. And we do have Ben in the chat moderating, so he can chime in and answer questions via text if we need to. I do have a microphone going through the new Mixbus mix strip, if I say that correctly. So we got a little high pass filter. I have some EQ. I'm also going through a 500 series compressor from Harrison. And so a little vocal chain that I can tweak as we go along and all that. But everything sounded good in my ears. And I got made some cool bump music here in Mixbus earlier today using the Q page. So if I go over to this other scene, you can see I have Mixbus 11, and this is the current Q page, which I have some tracks already pulled in on the edit window, and we can see the mix window right here as well. And of course, we have the record window, so I can see all my inputs coming in from my audio interface all at the same time. So I know exactly at a quick glance if I'm peaking on a certain input, if I need to adjust anything. I can also make new inputs based on, or new tracks based on any input that I have. And so the record page is very, just a great thing to have when you're recording live or working with live bands and just want to see all your inputs at once. And then, of course, we have the edit window. So let's focus on the top half of our screen right now. We can look at the focus channel here in a second. But main thing that you're going to notice in Mixbus 11 is the new toolbar area across the top. So we have nice big transport buttons. And you may wonder, like, why did you make them so big? Well, there's actually new multi-touch functionality in Mixbus 11 if you are on if you're on Windows or Linux. Mac is a little weird and wasn't as convenient to make a multi-touch option for Mac, but you can have a single touch if you have a single touch screen or any kind of touchable screen. So it does work on Mac. It just, you can't grab multiple faders with your fingers all at once, but you can reach over, start and stop the transport with your thumb. You can have the focus channel open on the bottom, which is very convenient. And we can actually close up the right edge or the left edge. As you can see over here, we have different edges now that we can hide and show on the different windows. So for the edit window, we have a left edge, a right edge, and a bottom edge. And obviously the bottom edge features our new focus channel. So you can see I can, if I had a touch screen, I could grab the mouse or I grab the fader with my thumb. I can move it up and down, which I'm just going to go ahead and do with my mouse right there. But it's just nice and big, so you can see everything. You can touch the mutant solos. You can get to all the mix buses over here, the Harrison 32C EQ, which you can also change to the SSL 9000J EQ if you own the Pro version of this DAW. But don't let that deter you though. The Mixbus 11 tier, the lower tier, is feature packed with all kinds of stuff. So if you don't need the SSL EQ, you don't need the Atmos mixing, you can still do a lot with the lower tier at a great price. So if you haven't jumped on Mixbus 11 yet, and you are a previous owner, you should be getting emails for your coupon codes. And if not, then you can also just write into support and say, hey, I want to upgrade. What's my options? And we are happy to help you out in that regard. So that's the new Focus channel. And a few other things of notable update is we have nice big window buttons over here. So we got the Q page, the record, the edit, and the mix. And once again, they're nice and big, so you can just reach up with your thumb or your finger and you can touch those if you're on a multi-touch or a single-touch screen. Then even the edges are fairly easy to touch with your finger if that's the kind of workflow that you want to have. And that's the thing with music and any kind of recording setup is each workflow is totally valid and totally different at the same time. So don't let anybody tell you that you should or should not be doing things a certain way, because if it works for you and you get the end result the way that you want, then by golly, that's what you should be doing then. Okay? Let's look at some of these comments here. Yeah. Ben Loftus from Nashville. Hello, Ben. Luca Benedetti. I think I said that right. All the way from Brooklyn. Glad you're here. We got Barry from Albuquerque. I had a friend from that area. He called it Turkey Town. Maybe that's just something y'all say over there in Albuquerque, but it is what it is. We got Zay Lewis from Brazil. What's up? Keith Milner from the UK. We got Jack from Michigan. Great to see everybody here. Quickly James from Connecticut. All right, we got some good stuff. Argentina. Hernan from Argentina. That's great. So once again, feel free to ask any questions that you want, especially about Mixbus 11 or just Mixbus in general, as we go through the different features and listen to audio examples and whatnot. So you'll notice that before on the edit window, we mainly had the left edge over here that we could see different channel strips, right? So, and as you chose the different channels or different track headers over here, then the strip on the left would change to, accommodate what you're seeing. So if I click on acoustic guitar, now I'm seeing my acoustic. Then if I go down here, maybe click on a vocal, now I see my vocal chain. I can go comp, gate, EQ, immersive if you have that turned on in the session, which I don't have at this point. The in record area, this is where you set your inputs based on your audio interface, which I actually have 3 audio interfaces like literally right here in my area. So I have an Audio Fuse 8 Pre, I have a SSL 12, another like rack kind of interface over here. So just so many different options you can choose. And Mixbus literally, technically and literally works with any audio interface on the market today, or even from 20 years ago. Just if you're on Windows, if you can, as long as you can download a driver for it, then it should show up in Mixbus just fine. Set it as your input and output device, and you're good to go. We do have some new buttons here to show your audio MIDI setup. So you can see I'm currently using the input and output device as my Audio Fuse 8 Pre. It is set to 48K sample rate because that is what is required for Atmos. And why not just have that as the default? I actually was using 44.1 for many years And I was told by many people that, hey, just use 48 because, you get a little extra bump in sample rate. Sounds a little bit better maybe. And it's just more convenient for working with video and, audio as well. So we have those options for the audio MIDI setup. Instead of having to go up to like window and then click there, we just give you a nice button there on the screen so you can access that. Then also you can access your Mixbus preferences if you need to go in and maybe add more things to the toolbar. Like I like to see the selection clock up here when I'm dragging a range. I can see that now that's 31 seconds instead of whatever. Or I want to see maybe, how long the second verse is, which is about 24 seconds. Just stuff like that. So it's very helpful to see and customize your toolbar exactly how you want. We do have the mini timeline across the top, and that actually shows up on all the windows now. So on the cue page, if you have multiple markers in your song, you can now navigate between those markers really easy, either by using the arrow keys over here, or you can do an X to get rid of a marker, or hit plus to add a marker, whatever you want to do. Then on the record page, we can navigate really easy, edit. Then on the mix window, I keep saying page and window, but you know what I mean. Okay, so we got that, and before on previous versions, you did not see that mini timeline on the mix window, so it just makes it infinitely more convenient to be able to navigate between your session, no matter what window that you have open. Okay. Here's a question from Gabriel. Will the order of processors and focus channel be following order in strip soon? Well, the order is pretty straightforward. So we have the main fader with our mutant solo, pan knob, trim knob, drive, comp, and gate meters. And then we have obviously we have the bus sends, and then EQ, compression, and then gate. So I guess technically you could have the sends on the end, but because you can see there's the sends there on the end, and you have the comp, gate, and EQ right here. So really the main difference is just having the sends either at the beginning or at the end. But I think this workflow is pretty good. I mean, maybe if you're on a touch screen, you want to move your finger. I mean, they're still pretty big, so you can move your finger wherever you want to touch everything and reach everything you need to. But this is a pretty good workflow. Like you mainly want to adjust your balance. So you can come up here and choose a track and then adjust the fader. And then maybe you want to send those tracks to some buses. So you got that next. And then, I need to actually EQ this. So I'm going to add the EQ now. And then I need to control the dynamics. So now I can use the compressor. And then I might want to use the gate. So maybe you're asking if you can freely move them around, which at this point you can't. And maybe in the future that can be something that can be considered. But this workflow is actually pretty good. And everyone's going to have their own preference. I mean, if we do something one way, then you're going to make half the people happy and half the people sad or mad or whatever. So at some point, you just have to kind of choose a function, a way of doing things, and just let the chips fall where they may, if that makes sense. This is a good one. So is the Behringer X-Touch still a valid option as a DAW controller? Yeah, I mean, Behringer X-Touch works with many different DAWs in today's market. There are multiple profiles within Mixbus. For example, if I just go in and go to preferences, then go down to control surfaces, and then I choose Mackie, and then there's going to be multiple X-Touch options in there, whether you have 2 extenders, 3 extenders, 1 extender, whatever that is. Let's go ahead and listen to some sounds here. You can see I have multiple groups across the top of my tracks. So for instance, if I want to group these two tracks together, I just take my mouse, dragging across the top, and then let go. And let's say this is my guitar 2, or maybe like a guitar rhythm type thing. I can go and change the color. We can make it green. Press new. And then now I have a slightly darker green than my electric guitar rhythm sound, or my A group, or my stairs, or whatever this is, right? And now when you group something, when you move one fader, that moves both, which is cool. You can also mute both. You can solo both. The drive is still independent, but when you move the trim, those two move in sync with each other. And to momentarily bypass the group, you can also just hold shift. So you got to remember, once you do this a few times, you can just remember like, oh, no shift, everything is grouped together. If I hold shift, now I can bypass the group momentarily to rebalance those two faders, or how many faders you got, and then let go. And now you got the faders moving relative together like so. Okay. I can also double click, and that'll go back to the default. Okay, maybe pan these hard left and right. So let's do a little thing here. You can see I have my arrangement markers here on the top, but I'm not really seeing those in the mini timeline. So maybe that's something we can add in the future, because otherwise I don't really know, where my markers are just by looking at this. But I can click on intro. I can click on verse, and it'll take me to that verse section, stuff like that. Turn around. Let's check out a chorus section here. Okay, so I turned down the volume just a little bit for my ears. Let me know if that's still good on your end. What I can do is go in and make a range, and then hit the right bracket to add a loop, and then hit L to start the loop. But I'm going to let's go concentrate on some acoustic guitar. This will be fun. I'm just going to go ahead and turn off some of these groups right now. And then let's just go listen to some acoustic. And the interesting thing that you notice when listening to multi-tracks of all kinds of different music is there's so many different ways of recording, and they happen to actually play and sing the guitar, or play the guitar and sing at the same time. So you're hearing a little bit of bleed from the vocal in the actual acoustic guitar track, which is equally as interesting, right? So what I can do is just kind of focus on my acoustic guitar across the top, and I did that by choosing the track header and hitting F, and F means for fit, or it stands for fit. So you're fitting the track in whatever space that you have allotted there on the screen, which is really cool. So let's just go ahead and listen to this a little bit. Got a little compression going on, so we can do some makeup gain. And it's already a guitar that sounds pretty decent, right? But let's just go ahead and turn off the EQ and the filters. See what it sounds like first. Yeah, so tonally, it sounds fine. There's really nothing that you have to fix on this particular track. The only thing that you will want to pay attention to is when you start getting the drums, bass, guitars, other vocals in. Each one of those elements are going to have a different frequency range, and that's why you, at that point, you would want to go in and actually use an EQ to help shape the sound, so that way maybe your bass guitar is too much for the kick drum, so you can kind of carve out the bass a little bit to make the kick drum stand out. Or maybe your guitars are too mid-rangey and it's not leaving enough space for maybe the piano that you might have in a track, or anything like that. So does that make sense? So that's why we use EQ to maybe one, fix things that we don't like about the actual tone, and then once we like the tone, we can go and rebalance the frequencies a little bit to make the other elements of the band feel better together. And what I like about this EQ is, I mean, first of all, it's been around since 1975. I have a huge 32 Classic right here in front of me on the other side of the room. And this is the same design, the same thought process that was used back in 75 of having a proportional Q where when you boost the gain of a frequency range, the Q gets tighter. Then as you ease up on the gain, the Q starts widening out again. So you can find that, especially here on this acoustic guitar, that even if I'm boosting at 12 dB, or actually 14 or 12 to 14, whatever it is, at this frequency, there's probably not a whole lot of 8K going on in the guitar. So you can boost that much, it's not sounding very brittle because I'm well beyond the actual fundamentals of the sound. And it just sounds nice and clean to the ear. It's not brittle at all or harsh, and it sounds pretty decent. So that kind of lets you know that when you boost things that way, you can find the sweet spots of the sound and maybe accent those, even though maybe not as much as 14 dB of boost is typically not what you want to do on a normal mix, but just for auditioning different things and trying things out, it's perfectly fine. So I can reset maybe the top band here. You can kind of hear that 9 to 2K range has a lot of mid-range going on. And if it sounded really bad, then obviously we want to take some of that out, but boosting at 14 dB is a little too much there. So I'm just going to bring it back to maybe like 2, like +2, +4, just to add a little bit of top end. Okay, so taking out some, what is this? About some 1K, boosting about 6K on the acoustic. You can go find some lower frequency stuff to maybe cut out if you want. Yeah, and obviously I'm EQing in solo mode, which is not what you always want to do. But just for demonstration purposes, the EQ sounds great. And once again, I mean, I can totally just hide the whole left side, that left edge, and not have to see that. And then just go through and say like, okay, I want to choose the bass guitar, and then there's my bass, right? Let's go solo that one up. Okay, maybe boost up some trim. We've got the drive knob there, so we can kind of drive it up a little bit. Obviously, we can pan it left and right if we need to, but you don't really need to pan the bass. Stuff like that. So yeah, it's basically mixing one at a time, essentially. But for those kind of workflows, that maybe you have a DAW controller in front of you, you can easily just choose a button or push a button on your DAW controller instead of using your mouse to go choose a track header. And now you're selecting a track, and then you can turn the knobs on your DAW controller to turn whatever you see on the screen, whether that's the EQ, gate, compressor, bus ends, all that different stuff. Okay, let's go see what kind of comments we got over here. I just messed up. Yes, I will remove the question. That should disappear after a little while, but I messed that up, so I will fix that. There we go. I got that. I will just hide those. There should be a setting. I'll look in that in the future. Before I stream next time, I'll make sure it's all turned off so you can actually see what's going on. Sorry about that. But thanks for letting me know. Do you see that the empty left box under the big yellow stop button? You know what would fit perfectly there. A panic button. Yeah. There is a panic button up here at some point. Yeah, maybe you're talking about like right in this area here under the stop. Maybe put a panic button there. Yeah, I mean those areas are open for future development, if you will. And once again, I will go and I did it again. I gotta remember to hit that one. Okay. Maybe I won't show comments for a while. We got Phil. Phil is here. What's up, Phil? Chill mode, that's something that the higher ups will have to figure out eventually. This is actually a good one. So can multiple plugins be installed on multiple regions on the same track? Yes, you can. So let me show you here. There's a really cool thing called, if you select a region, so not only does a focus area show the processing, but it also shows any kind of information about the region that you select. Right now, you can't edit audio down here, but you can add region effects. So let's just say, for example, I go into the vocal. Let's go find a good spot. Take off this bass here. Black powder, oh, black powder soul. All right, let's just take this soul word right here. I'm going to use my range tool to highlight it, and then I'm just going to split that region. Okay, I'm actually going to put this in lock mode so I don't move things side to side. So now I can actually add a region effect just to that one word. And it could be reverb, it could be delay, it could be phase, flange, tremolo. I mean, just literally any kind of plugin that you have. It could be EQ. Let's just do a EQ real fast for fun. So in the search box here for the plugin selector, I can just type in EQ, and it'll bring up any kind of EQ that you already have on your system that you have scanned. I am looking for, yeah, let's just use like the ACQ. Nothing too crazy, just something real simple. So pull this up. So I don't know why, but maybe I want this soul word to like be thinned out or something. I mean, just something stupid, right? So black powder soul. Yeah, sure. That's gonna win a Grammy right there. So just make it really high end. Let's go add another plugin. Now let's add some reverb. And actually, I'll do the G-verb kind here. This is a mono. I can also add that to my favorites, which would be very convenient. And now we have a reverb plugin. So once again, I'm just working on this one word here to kind of accent it. So maybe I want to do a like a crystal space, and then lower the mix knob there. Black powders. That's totally insane, I know. Black powders. Okay, let's hear it in the full mix. This is gonna sound crazy, but it is what it is. Okay, in the full context of things, it doesn't really work, but you get the point. I mean, you can literally add whatever plugins you want. Let's go add a delay. And we'll have the repeats like be really high or something. So it kind of just keeps ringing out. And also notice that the for any kind of wet effects, there is a spill or a tail time edit. So I can go in and tell it to be like, I want the tail to be 10 seconds. Okay? So now if I make the feedback really high, it's going to keep ringing out until that 10 seconds is over, and then it'll be done. So let me actually ease up on the EQ just a little bit here so you can hear the word a little bit better. It's all just ways of being creative with what you got. Okay, that's pretty cool. Let's make it a lot of feedback. Maybe you slow it down a little bit. Chord note delay. One more thing we gotta do is make sure we turn on the fade before effects. Okay, that's going to basically be just like a volume pedal. If you're a guitar player at all, like I am, most of the time you'll want your volume pedal right before your wet effects. So even though you bring down the heel of the volume pedal, you still get all the tail and the spillover from the effects continuing on. So I forgot about that one. So fade before effects is the checkbox you want if you want to actually hear the effects keep going. Black dark clouds above me, but weird. Right? So you heard all the effect keep going even though the rest of the vocal was untouched. Right? So it's just little things that you can do to be weird just for the fun of it. Make your friends laugh. It's like, hey, look what I can do, whatever. That's actually a fun thing. We can actually go in also and do a gain envelope. We can also do maybe like a dry wet mix for the reverb. So I'm going to show on touch down here. And that's going to allow me to see that parameter on that region. So now I can kind of just bump this up, right? I know I'm talking about the focus channel today, but you asked about region effects, so I'm just kind of go over that real fast. So check this out. Okay, so you got the mix knob coming up there for just that region itself, and that's really fun. Before on the Q page, there were ways to add audio and MIDI clips, but there wasn't really a way to edit those. So now we can actually do that. Okay, so we can drag that in, we can click it, and now I see my actual MIDI down there. You can make them nice big diamonds for percussive sounds, whatnot. You can make them a little bit smaller, stuff like that. So I can go in, maybe use my draw tool and, add a note here and there. Okay? Stuff like that. I'm not going to do all that right now, but you can just kind of see that even more functionality with this focus area down, or the properties area. And if I choose the track, then you can see the processing. If I choose the region, then you can see whatever you need. You can edit on that. Okay? I hope that makes sense. Let's look at some more questions here. There's a mid-side plugin from Robin Garris within the plugin list. But that's kind of separate from the actual plugins themselves. And I actually don't mess with mid-side a whole lot. But I know there are ways to do it. Dio's asking how good are the editing and sampling capabilities. Let me kind of know what sampling you're talking about. But as far as editing, we have the whole gamut of editing tools over here. We do have smart mode. So what that means is if the mouse is on the bottom half of the region, then you're in grab mode. Then if you're on the top half, you're in range mode. Okay, so that makes it really easy to either grab or select a range. And when you do select a range, you can, maybe you want to copy and paste, or maybe I'll just, copy this little area over here, and I can paste it over here based on my mouse position, right? And I can also pull it over. Yes, I'm in slide mode right now, so I can pull this over. And something I was doing on a session earlier today, I was trying to do some mixing. I actually had the left channel on one track and the right channel on another track. But I wanted them to be on the same track. So I just pulled one down to the other and then made them opaque, which is actually kind of neat. So you can do Control-0 to make something transparent because they're already opaque. And now you can pull this over and I can play multiple regions on top of each other, and they can all be heard without one obscuring the other. So it's really neat. Once you dive into what you can actually do in Mixbus as far as editing and mixing, mastering, releasing songs, everything is there that you need to do. And I actually like to tell people that, because I've dabbled in so many DAWs over the years, but there's really nothing I can't do in Mixbus. And if I can't do it in Mixbus, I probably shouldn't be doing it at all. I know that's a weird kind of mantra saying, but it's like, like all the fancy schmancy stuff that some of these other DAWs have, it's like, yeah, it's cool, but does it really help you get to the end goal of getting a great sounding mix? You know what I mean? And not everything has to do with the mix. I mean, you have to have good sounding tracks. You have to, make sure your playing is on par. Make sure you're singing in tune. Your guitar's tuned up. Make sure the performance is right. And then from there, obviously just basic miking techniques of make sure you're actually capturing that source. Once they have a good performance, make sure you capture the source the way it needs to be for what the song needs. And then from there, the mixing is really easy. The editing is really easy because you're not sitting there trying to pocket drums for 3 hours, or you're not trying to tune a vocal with Melodyne, for an hour because the singer just couldn't sing, unless you're doing it for a certain effect. And I know we're working with all kinds of clients out there that have different levels of studio experience, and maybe they just wrote a song, but they don't necessarily know how to perform it all that well. Well, that's where you actually go hire studio musicians to either play the parts, either hire background singers or replacement singers to actually sing the song for the songwriter, so that way you actually get a good product at the end and not have to worry about, man, I have to tune the vocal, I have to pocket everything just to make it sound decent, and that's not always what you want. So I know some of the tools out there for like plugins are very, hey, just fix it in the mix or just fix it later kind of thing, but that's not really the right mindset you want to have. And that's the beauty of Mixbus, is all the tools that you need for editing, for mixing, mastering, and releasing a song is literally all right there on the screen. You very rarely have to go deep diving into menus or right clicking on stuff. It's just, if you need, I just love that if you click on a track, everything you need is right there. You got your fader, your trim, your drive, your panner, your bus sends, which not every DAW has. I mean, you can make buses in other DAWs, but they don't have specific bus sends like you would see on a console. And this is the whole purpose of Mixbus, is a console style workflow that's just all right there in front of you. So you got your EQ. Hey, what kind of EQ am I going to use today? Well, you're going to use the one that's on the screen, right? You're going to use the compressor that's right there in front of you. You have a variable ratio, attack, release, an emphasis knob, which is very similar to what is on a LA2A compressor. That little turn screw on a LA2A, that's an emphasis knob that changes the character of the compression, whether it's compressing the low end sooner or the high end sooner, or just whatever you want. Then also we have the makeup gain there. And then we have a built-in gate, which if you're dealing with live tracks, a gate is really valuable because you can cut out a lot of that excess noise that would be in a live environment, and you can have full control over your attack, release, depth, hysteria, not to be confused with Def Leppard, and and your hold knob, just all the different things that you need right there in the channel strip. So, and of course, if you have other plugins that you like using, obviously use whatever plugin that you want. But that's not really why you get Mixbus in the first place. You don't get Mixbus just to keep using your same old plugins that you've been using for decades, right? Or even just a few years. Really dive into what Mixbus offers and see if it works for you. Okay, we got a few minutes here. We got about 15 minutes left. We'll probably end. We'll try to wrap this up within like an hour, unless we just have a lot of questions that people are wanting to ask, and then we can go a little bit longer, but I don't want to go too long. Is there a Mixbus overlay for Xtouch? I'm not sure. I know there's all kinds of custom overlays that people offer over the years for different DAW controllers. But it's really just the default Mackie profile. So once you memorize what the Mackie protocol is, that's what Mixbus uses, essentially. So yeah, I would say just dive in and just memorize it and be done. But I know it is nice having those extra creature comforts of being able to see scribble strips, being able to see an overlay, so you don't have to totally memorize everything, especially if you only just use it, once in a while, and you're not really diving in too deep. Obviously Barry is mentioning Aura support. Yeah, sure. I mean, Aura can take your Melodyne, session and just make it go a little bit faster. But I could add Melodyne to this track right now, and yes, I could record. I would have to sit here for however long the song is and just record in the vocal, and then go back and edit it. But I try to do a lot of things before adding plugins to kind of prepare myself for not having to use as many plugins. So I can go in and be like, oh, this is a little ahead of the beat, this is behind the beat. Let's say I can just go in cut this up. I can use a slip mode, which is shift and command and then click with your mouse. So you can move the region you can move the waveform within the region, stuff like that. So that's a really easy way that I pocket things really fast. And then by the time I get to actual tuning, I don't really need a whole lot because I've already fixed a lot of those things manually just by going through the track and just kind of cleaning things up. And actually, even before I use Melodyne, if the vocal is not too bad, I've used the Waves tuner, like the live tuner. I know I've seen like advertisements for it. It's on advertisements on YouTube, and it actually works really, really well. There's also the Slate Digital Meta Tune. So it's like any other tuning plugin, but you just basically apply it to the track, and you don't have to go draw in everything all the time. It just kind of works globally across the whole track. And, if the singer you're working with is not that bad and just needs a little bit of love here and there, then I say just using like a meta tune or a Waves tuner, live tuner, really gets the job done 90% of the time. And if you have to use Melodyne, then yeah, sure, fine. Then that's what you gotta do. But our support, maybe one day we'll have all that, but it's fine. I'm actually going to cut out. Let's go through and let's clean up some of this stuff here. So you can see I'm using the range tool to highlight a section, and then I just hit delete, and that clears that out, which is kind of cool. Just depends on what your track is. What did I just do? There we are. Just kind of sliding through. Maybe I want to cut out this little breath there. Maybe cut out this little area here. Just go ahead and clean stuff up. I'm just doing things I would normally do in a session anyway, right? You can actually select a region and use the J and K keys that trim the front and the back. So if I want to go here and trim the front, hit J, go over here. I can't hit K because I have other things I want to keep. You can see that I can just go in, trim this up, hit delete, stuff like that. And then I'm technically at the end of the song. So now I can select this one, hit K. That gets rid of that thing. And now you just cleaned up your track, right? If you are in a group, so I can go turn this group on here. So when you make a range, it actually does it across both regions because they are grouped together. So this is very handy for like drums or anything that you're working on. I'm not even sure what tempo this song is at. I'm currently at 120, but it might be a totally different tempo, which is fine. I can do more editing type, tempo mapping and stuff like that a little bit later in other future videos. But for now, just going in, maybe I want to go like pocket this little area right here. Just go make a range, highlight it, press S, maybe do like a little slip edit type thing. Whatever you want to do. I actually enjoy this. This might be shocking, but I actually enjoy manually editing drums. There's just something about it. I've always loved it. It's very relaxing to me. It's like, Nathan, you're so weird. I was like, yeah, I know. I am really weird when it comes to that. And what I would usually do is I'll go in like 8 bars, 16 bars at a time, or maybe just do it like one verse and just kind of go in and be like, oh, that's ahead, that's behind. Okay, that's close enough. Just nudging the pocket here and there. Especially if you're only recorded drums to like a scratch and then everybody else has yet to record everything. It is good to go tighten up the drums beforehand. So that way you have the drums as tight as you can be before everything else gets added. And all that. Let's go ask some more questions here. Super Mario, all the way from Brooklyn. What's up, man? Where's the drive channel in the signal chain? That is a good question. Let me think for a second. The drive channel is at the very, very front, very, very top of the signal chain, right after the trim knob. So the trim is actually at the very top of the signal chain, because when you move the trim, you also adjust, how hard you're hitting the compressor, or you're changing the response of the gate, stuff like that. So it's very similar to like if I would go in and actually change a waveform here. Let me just do this, for example. So if I go in and hit Control 6, that's going to bring it up, and it's going to bring it down. So you're really controlling the gain structure of the track itself before it hits anything else in your channel strip. So yes, the trim is the very, very top, and then you have the drive right after that. And so therefore, if you turn the drive on, then you turn the trim up, you're putting more signal into that drive section, and you're getting more drive. So it's not exactly meant to work like a guitar amp or like a guitar pedal. It's just one of those things where, do you want the drive on? Okay, yes, I do. So let's turn it on. Then you use the trim knob to adjust how much you're feeding into that drive. And then once you get the tone that you like, you can go in and adjust your fader level after that. So your fader is the last line of defense, because it's way farther down in the signal chain than the trim and the drive, obviously. But what's really cool is you can actually rearrange all this. So if I want the gate like after my fader for some weird reason, then I can do that, right? If I want the compressor before my EQ or after my EQ. Yeah, you can just move these things around, but just know that the trim is before all of this. So you can't have like gate, EQ, compressor, and then the trim, and then the fader, because there's not a movable trim blob that you can shift around the signal chain. It has to stay in its current spot. Okay, that's just the way that is. Going back over to the mixer page, if I click on a Mixbus, for instance, I can see all the processing for that. So we've got the drive knob right there, got the high pass filter, low, mid, and high sweetening bands. And these are very broad frequency ranges. So we got 300 shelf, a mid bell, and then a high shelf at 2K, which are like 2K. Why is it so low? But actually, it works really well. I used the 2K to actually take out some high end on a vocal on a song not too long ago, and it just if you don't like bring it all the way down, but just those vocals sit kind of in that kind of like that 1K to 4 to 5K range anyway. So when you bring down 2K frequency on that high shelf, it just kind of nudges everything down very gracefully, very smoothly. And, for different times in my Mixbus journey, I've requested like, hey, can we get like another frequency to choose from or whatever else? But you know what? At the end of the day, it actually works really well. And once you go over to the master bus here, we can see that we still have a low, mid, and high, but the frequencies have changed because now we're at the tail end of our mixing chain. And for the lows, we have 90 hertz. We have a 300 hertz mid band. So if you want to take out some low mids there, then we have a 4K high shelf. which is really does a really good job at sweetening that high end just a little bit when you need to. Okay, so everything is there that you need to get a great mix. We also have the K14 meter, so as we play our session, okay, I can see where that needle is hitting between 0 and +4, and I know exactly, or at least within the ballpark, of how loud my export is going to be when I deliver it to Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, just all the different streaming services out there. Or whether you're going to put it on CD or put it on vinyl or cassette tape, for all you guys out there that still love cassette tapes. I know there's people out there, man. Chase Duncan says, can we export to DDP? No, you can't. That is a very particular file type for CD duplication, and Mixbus just doesn't have that at the moment. Or maybe it never will have it. I don't know. But it's just not one of those things. Okay, this is a really good question here. What makes Mixbus better or different from Studio One or Luna? All right, so Mixbus for 15 years has really stressed the importance of a console-style workflow. So when you open up a Mixbus session for the first time, you're not going to see any tracks, but you will see 12 buses standard, okay? Now I can actually pull all these out here so you can see what I'm talking about. So we have 12 mix buses that you can send all your tracks to, okay? And notice that we have spill buttons here already on those mix buses. So let me just pull these back in so I can see 4 at a time. So if I get rid of this processor box down here, I can see all my bus sends. So I got my bass going to like Mixbus 2, some acoustic guitars to 3, electric guitars to channel 4 or Mixbus 4. My vocals are on 8. If I had background vocals, they'd be on 7. If I had piano, they'd be on 6. You know, stuff like that. So essentially, all my tracks flow into the mix buses, which are already made for you. I know Pro Tools has aux buses. Studio One has buses, aux buses. You know, we all call them different terms, but they're really the same thing. It's just a way to take this track over here, send it to another bus or aux bus, auxiliary channel, to then process multiple tracks at once, whether that's EQing, compressing, adding delay, adding reverb, stuff like that. And then you go straight to the master bus from there, which has the K14 meter, the stereo correlation meter, and everything is what you see is what you get kind of thing, okay? And you don't have to create those mix buses. They are already built in to the session. Also, the mix buses have a summing engine built into them as well. So they're doing special processing underneath the hood to make, take your digital signal and just warm it up a little bit and give it some round edges, if you will. Okay. And that's just with everything built in. I know with Luna, you can get it for free, but then you have to pay like $400 for the API upgrade, or you got to pay $699 or whatever it is for like the Neve stuff, or, just the extra processing. So that's kind of where they get you. It's like, we'll get you in for free, but then if you want all the other stuff, you kind of have to pay for it, which obviously you got to pay for things, right? So that's really the biggest things that makes Mixbus different from Luna is you get all the buses, all the processing already ready to go in the DAW. And right now, if you go to the harrisonaudio.com website and go to Mixbus 11 product page, you can buy Mixbus 11 for $50 stinking. That is very inexpensive. And that comes with everything you see here on the screen. You got the compressor, you got the gate, you have the EQ, you have the bus stands, you have the in record, You do not get the immersive channel, which we can talk about in a future live stream. But, that's something that you pay extra for the pro tier. But even then, it's only $150 for the pro tier if you're buying it brand new, right? So it's still a really good deal. And then you don't get the SSL EQ on the lower tier, but that's only in the pro tier. But once again, this Harrison 32C EQ has been around for literally 50 years. It's made tons of albums from Michael Jackson to ABBA to AC/DC to Robert Plant to literally everybody under the sun who's owned a studio, and has recorded hit records from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and all the way till today. We have so many people buying our 32 Classic console to put in their studios because we love having that big console look, having the big console sound, having that big console workflow. And even if you can't afford a big console, you can still at least get the same workflow and sound right here in your computer, looking at your screen right here. So Studio One has been around for quite a few years. I actually went to MTSU with Joe Gilder back in the early 2000s. He had a lot more hair. Actually, we both had a lot more hair back then. That's just the way it goes sometimes with aging and hair follicles. But I've known Joe for years, and he's a great Studio One proponent and does great work. But first of all, he is a great singer-songwriter and producer. So he could literally take Pro Tools, he could take Bitwig, he could take any DAW and make great music because he knows what it takes to make great music. But thankfully, whether you're using Mixbus or any other DAW, all the tools are there to make the music that you want. But we like to think that Mixbus helps you make music a little bit easier, and especially on the mixing process side of things, getting it mixed and mastered. And all the editing is very easy and straightforward to memorize and learn as well. So at some point, you just got to try them out, see which one works best for you. But if you like what you see here on Mixbus for the focus channel, for the record window, you see all your inputs at once. For the Q page, which is Ableton Live style clip launching, you can just drag and drop your clips, make different arrangements of your songs, and then go into your mix window and do all the mixing that you need literally from the screen without having to pay any extra for any other features. And it's just literally all right there for you. So I know there's always the DAW wars conversation, like, oh, which DAW is best? But if you really value mixing and getting a good sound, then sure, go produce your song in Logic or produce it over in Studio One. But when you're ready, export all your multi-tracks, import them into Mixbus, and be prepared to just get your mind blown for what kind of ease of use and how quickly you can get a good mix that sounds great, and you can deliver it off to your streaming services, CD duplication, cassette tape duplication, whatever you want to do. And it'll just blow your mind how good it sounds, how easy it is to learn, and all the things that you can do with it. So we have really just scratched the surface here, folks, on the focus channel and what Mixbus can do. During the week or over the next few weeks, if you want to give your suggestions on future topics that you would like to see me to cover, then I'm happy to engage with any ideas that you may have, and we can just keep moving forward on this and just continue to have fun each week, every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Central Time. And I will be here sitting in this chair, rain or shine. Well, I'm indoors, so it doesn't matter if it's raining or shining. If I'm sick, I'm sure that Ben can come in and take over if he wants to. But yeah, we'll just continue having fun. We'll keep learning about new ways of doing things. We can learn about the requests that you care about, and we can be adding those to our list and seeing how different ways we can implement those new features that you are yearning for to make your workflow that much better here in Mixbus. So thanks to everyone for checking out the stream today. We had a lot of good comments, a lot of good questions. Thank you, Ben, for moderating in the background while I'm just over here rambling. And yeah, I had fun, and I hope you had fun as well. So once again, I am Nathan from Harrison Audio. I will see you in the next video.